Okay, so started another Airfix Lightning today. I just wanted to go over a few little things that I've discovered over the course. I think this is my 6th or possibly 7th one of these since the model was released. So obviously I've spent quite a lot of time learning a few things about it. Now, the first thing that I always do with these kits now is I've glued the air brakes in place, and I've also glued the cannon covers on the nose in place. They've all been sanded and blended and then rescribed. The best thing I've found is just to use super glue. Let it dry naturally. Don't use an accelerator or anything on the super glue because that has a tendency to create voids and stuff in the glue because it creates a lot of heat as it dries. If you just let it dry naturally, it takes longer to dry, but it will sand and scribe much better and give you a really good finish. So, like I say, that's been done on these areas. Okay, the belly tank has been, each half of the belly tank has been glued into place on its respective side. Again, I've used super glue for that throughout, just for strength. Now, in terms of the interior, you've got this assembly here that goes in like so, and then gets trapped in the fuselage halves when you join them together. Always creates a bit of a you're creating a bit of a squeeze to get this together. So what I've discovered is that along each side and around this circumference where it joins onto the nose ring, okay, I've been using some quite rough files, sandpapers and stuff, just to remove excess material from these sides here and a little bit around the circumference, and that just helps the whole thing seat and the fuselage halves go together without having to squeeze them to get them to fit. Okay, so that's one little tip. Now, you've got this assembly here. Okay, there's this jet pipe assembly which goes into the rear fuselage before you join them. Now, there's a ridge here, okay, which these locate against, and what I've discovered is that in general terms it's perceived wisdom that this would normally go behind that ridge, like so, locate like that in there, and good to go. What I've discovered is if you do that, it puts these jet pipes too far back out of the fuselage, and then when you come to add when you come to add this, which is the external jet pipe part later on, the jet pipes don't let it seat fully down. So what I've found that you have to do is you have to actually make sure that bulkhead that those jet pipes are attached to goes in front of the ridge in the fuselage, not behind it, and that just gives it enough clearance. There's probably maybe less than 2 millimeters difference in it, but it makes all the difference and just means that that jet pipe, the external jet pipe part, will seat properly. So, like I say, that's one tip. Make sure that goes in front of the ridge and not behind it. Another little thing, you might see these little bits of filler in here. The tail planes mount into here, and they're on, as you can see here, they're on pins, okay, that locate in. That fit can be a little bit sloppy. Nothing too bad, but it's a little bit sloppy. And what I've found is that if I use, in this instance, what I've used is some Milliput black. It doesn't matter which, it's just Milliput. I had some black, so I've used that. Mix a bit up, stick a dollop in each side, and press it in, and then I'll just drill through that Milliput when it's dry, and that means I can control the size of that hole so I can get a good push fit of the tail planes into the fuselage. One of the problems with this is if you're not careful, this filler will interfere with your jet pipe assembly. So what I've done is once the fill is in place, I've pressed this jet pipe into place, and you can probably see it's moulded to the shape of the jet pipe on each side, so I know that's now going to fit when it's dry. And I assemble the fuselage. So that's a couple of little tips that I've discovered over the course of the last nearly getting on 10 months of building these Lightnings almost consistently. So that's really going to help with anybody building this. One thing I have noticed is that this is the F.6 model, which was released back in July, sort of August time. And I've noticed that in just less than a year since they started making this model, since they started producing this, the moulds have already started to suffer. There's quite a lot of flash starting to turn up on this kit now. I don't know if you can probably see the flash around the rear end of these Firestreak missiles here, and that's on quite a lot of the rest of the kit, and some very large ejection pin marks are starting to creep in, whereas the original kits were very small and subtle. I don't know whether it's a quality control issue, I don't know whether the moulds have started wearing very quickly or what, but it's certainly a cause of some concern for me to see how it's deteriorated so very rapidly over a space of less than a year. So it's something to be careful and watch out for with your kits. One of the things I've taken to doing is the refueling probe is very clumsily moulded in this kit, so I've started, I cut away the fairing parts and make the actual probe part out of a piece of brass tubing cut to size. That'll need some fairing work done on these, which is the refueling light and the forward location fairing. And then you can see, but it will locate into the wing when it's done, and you've got a piece of perfectly tubular brass tube there for the actual probe itself. The one in the kit is a horrible sort of flattened semicircle shape, not at all tube-like like it should be. So this is really quite a quick and simple way of improving the overall look of the model, and what I'll do is I'll get some Master Models refueling probe tips, which are turned brass, and that'll just plug straight into the end of that when it's done and ready for assembly to the model. So that's just a little primer for some of the stuff that I've discovered over the various Airfix Lightning builds I've done over the last 10 months or so. So I hope that helps, and I'll show you more of the model as we get it together and as we go forward. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you soon.